Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, world, and welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. Hi, Doc. How you doing, Andrea? Today, we have an exciting guest on the show today, someone that has really gone through a serious crisis event in her life, was able to come not only succeed in going through the event, but to be able to pay it forward. And without further ado, I'd like to take this opportunity now to introduce Dr. Andrea Vitz. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hal. I just want to start off by saying I'm honored to be here, and I just finished reading your book.
Oh, interesting.
It was a very powerful book, and I related to so many things that you said in there, not the specifics. You had a very different life than I've had, but an incredibly respectable life, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Doctor. You know, I think it's important when we share extreme crisis events like both you and I have experienced in life, is what we do once a conversion becomes reality. And in my case, you know, I spent 15 years in the Sinaloa drug cartel. I was a smuggler for 6 of those years, and then became the largest trafficker of cocaine in the history of the Pacific Northwest. But I went down to end that life. I went to Culiacan, Sinaloa, sat down at the table of bosses, negotiated for my freedom, agreed to let them have a continuance through the network I had built. Everything was hugs and handshakes, and I returned home and had 1/3 of a ton of cocaine sitting in my driveway. So that was their response. The following day, I walked into the U.S. Attorney's office, introduced myself as Hal Bradley, and they were literally floored that a drug kingpin had just walked into their office and was willing to take down the organization that he had spent so many years building. So that's kind of my story. You know, I went operational. I spent 19 months undercover working in multiple foreign countries, going after the very thing that would never give me my life back. It was a tough decision because in the 80s, I had been in Folsom Prison on a drug trafficking charge and kept my mouth shut. Man of honor, you take your hit, you broke the law, pay your debt, and move on with life. What happens in that type of life, Doctor, is that world doesn't let you go. I had relocated out of state, come back home up here. I had walked away from it. I did my time. I wanted to build a new life. I got into a marriage, the love of my life, had kids, had a business going, and then all of a sudden there's a knock on the door and the cartel is back in your life. So what do you do?
Your family, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what do? You try to keep the family alive. That's your first and foremost part of this crisis experience that I was going through. But I knew that it wasn't going to shake, and that was the deciding factor to walk in at that point. And for a man like me who's never been a rat or never done things like that, it was an extremely tough decision. But I wasn't out there getting arrested and telling on all the good boys and girls, Doctor. I was involved in a world that I no longer wanted to be a part of. So I had to make a choice of survivorship. And that's what ensued. And, you know, they recruited me out of Leavenworth Federal Prison. Halfway through my sentence, one day I get a call up to the warden's office. And the next thing you know, I'm in front of a judge in Seattle. And now I'm operational as a contractor. And Doctor, I spent 17 years undercover operational. I've been assassinated. I've been captured and tortured. I've been kidnapped and tortured. I've gone through unimaginable things to right the wrongs of my life. And 31 years later, from my release, I'm sitting here in front of you today with 22 years of my life working in trap houses, homeless camps, giving back to the very community that I helped decimate 30-something years ago. So my point to leading out like this, Doctor, is sometimes we go through extreme events, but maybe wisdom can be applied to the surviving of such events. In your case, your new life, I should say, started as a result of an accident that you survived. Can you take us kind of from there?
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite an accident. I had injured myself severely.
Oh, okay.
Accident or anything. Like, your story is much more traumatic than mine and more serious than mine, but mine left serious impact, so to speak. So I had ruptured 3 discs in my lower back, and they were pushed back past my spinal ligament and laying on my spinal cord. And so I had very little use of my left leg. My left calf was useless. My whole saddle on the left side was completely numb. And you can imagine like the pain down the leg. People have talked about but like you have like nerve pain in any part of the body. And I know this as a doctor of chiropractic, I see it all the time, but you have almost like no will to live after a certain period of time. That pain just takes you away. And I remember walking in circles, like dragging my foot and just like laughing, like maniacally laughing because I was absolutely going crazy. So I had the same kind of vibe that you did, where when this happened, I got to a place of like, I have to survive this. Like,
yes.
There's not, I don't know if it's a personality thing, sir, or if it's, something from straight from God to telling you who you are and reminding you of your power. But it's like, you're going to get through this. And not only are you going to, but you have to now, and you need to do it like a badass. And so like, there's no other way to do that. You have to become somebody else. The moment you decide that you're going to survive, you become somebody else. You become the leader of yourself. You have a totally different vibe. People around you are like, you're crazy. You're relentless. You're doing things that are outside the norm in terms of human nature, right? Most people would say like, oh, let's run off and get surgery. But I didn't have time to get surgery. I know that sounds crazy. I practiced to run. I was living with my mom. I had just lost my stepdad to a event, and it was just a lot going on. I had a little girl at home, and so there was no time or place for surgery. I had to do this myself, and I had been introduced to the world's greatest coach, who is now my husband.
How cool.
He rehabilitated me, and he was the first person to say, like, you really need surgery. Like, I've never seen an MRI this bad. And he took it to 2 of his doctors that were very anti-surgery docs. And both of them said, this lady should get surgery like yesterday. And for some reason, I just simply couldn't do it. I felt like there was something bigger there, like a calling. Like, if you can figure this out, you can do anything, and you can help so many people if you figure this out. And so him and I worked together, and it took several months to get me out of pain. And long story short, he took me from being able to not even like be able to do like a basic squat onto a box without like my leg giving out, but to squatting over 500 pounds in a competitive powerlifting competition and winning a national.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I ended up getting an elite total in powerlifting, which for you don't know, it's a national qualified system. So basically for your weight class, you have to be able to lift a certain amount in a judged competition. And that puts you at an elite level, which was like a black belt in powerlifting. So, and this was a sport I never before, and certainly did not join my husband's team in order to be a national champion powerlifter or even a powerlifter. I joined to get my body back. And I remember when I first met him, he said, well, what do you want out of this experience? And I said, I want to do more than survive the experience. I want my body to match my spirit.
Wow. Like, I get that. I've been there. Yeah. That's a discipline that's indescribable. It's almost supernatural that comes into play at that point. And that's just amazing. Yeah,
it is, right, Doc? It's like anything that is beyond our human nature is supernatural by definition.
Exactly.
So you're right. Yeah. So that's kind of long story short. Since then, we've run one of the greatest rehabilitation centers for injured people through our gym, which is our physical arm of our school, Lifted Academy. And we have new people coming in and out here all the time with these impossibles, whether it be, I don't want to get surgery, but I've had this for, 20 years, or I have this severe injury, or I have this dis-ease or this thyroid condition or diabetes or whatever. And it's like, we've just reverse engineered how we did it. Like, how did we get from being an absolute and surgical requirement to better than I've ever been beyond in a supernatural way? And a lot of that people think, well, yeah, you got stronger, right? But it's not just about getting stronger physically. And you could probably attest to this. I love what you said in your book about how like the first step is just, you have to decide to survive. Like,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And you never know when a crisis is going to come. I get this. but wouldn't you always want to be ready? And so we think about that all the time. We think about like, okay, if a crisis came, well, I want my body to be in its peak physical zenith. I want to be strong. I want to be metabolically masterful. I want to be able to not even think about my body when I'm in that setting. I want to be able to do anything that's limitless, boundaryless, so that people can follow my lead and be safe from anything that might be happening. Or if I'm alone, I won't need somebody else in every turning point. I won't be helpless. So
you know what that is? Oh, I'm sorry, doctor. I just want
to hear you.
Yeah, I want to react on this, because what happens is it becomes a psychological form of discipline that mandates the directive that we're creating for ourselves to not only survive, but to become above and beyond that which we were before. And that desire can only come from within shared or given experiences prior to the event that put us in the place that we find ourselves in, as we're trying to outgrow, if you will, the discipline measure that we were impacted with to start this process in the first place. In my case, a week after I was 17, I was in the United States Army. My friends were in the 11th grade. I was a paratrooper by the time I was 17 and a half.
That blew me away.
Yeah, but the point to it, doctor, was it was the discipline that was formed in me at that point in life that carried me through. I remember surviving Tigerland training in Louisiana, and the training was so intense that they shut down the program. Congress killed it because of what we had to go through. And then here, years later, I get captured on a mission. I'm tortured every day for 7 weeks before the team finally came in, extracted me and the other agent that I was captured with out of there. But you know what? That 17-year-old experience of going through POW camp training, here I am a POW later in life. And I remember reflecting back, and doctor, that's the discipline I'm talking about, that you have not only taken to a point of getting healed and recovered, you went above and beyond as a result of your expectations. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I had no idea that it wasn't even a blip on the radar, you can't foresee that. But I love that. I mean, I was absolutely, genuinely impressed isn't enough of a word, but when I'm reading your story, I'm thinking, man, like no one can complain about anything. Like, right? Like this guy.
I get that.
Your book kind of had a very similar theme as, what book is that? It's Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh my God. Thank you for comparing my book to that. What a great comparison.
Well, it's true. It's like dire conditions. Where's your heart? Yeah. Where's your center? Where's your purpose? Where's your intention? Because you've got nothing without it, and actually you have everything with it.
So well, doctor, what happens is a moment becomes where everything is all of a sudden very real. This is life and death. And what you saw in my book is exactly what that came to. I knew that I was going to face death. I knew that the possibility of death was extreme. Did I let that inhibit me? Quite the opposite. I built on that foundation through an earlier discipline that was orchestrated in my life. And in your case, doctor, when you went through that period of time where you were paralyzed, for God's sakes, you didn't basically you were, and you didn't give up on it. Yeah, exactly. But you didn't give up on it. Instead, you got pissed off about it and decided to do something about it. And I'm so proud of you for it, because that is what this show is designed for. Showing people, doctor, like us, that have survived an extreme crisis event and manifested it into something above and beyond, like you have done. So please continue. I just had to.
Yeah, for sure.
I had to give you the kudos.
Well, I think what I want to tie it back to is the fact that when we train physically, we're ready for more. And we can lead more effectively. People can rely on us. If we're not independent, we can't be dependent upon.
Oh, perfect. Well said.
Right?
How true.
So physically is like the easiest way to do that. If we're lucky enough to be able to use our body in any way, you can get physically stronger than you could ever imagine. Just trust me. If you can walk, you could be a total just monster in terms of strong. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter that you've never done it before. Like, you can get so strong in a matter of like a year or two. I truly believe that. And if you think about what same thing with emotional training. Think about that. I've met so many people that if they had just been prepared for the emotional requirements or the capacity of what they have to endure in those moments, they would have had a completely different experience and not been completely grounded by that.
That's that moment I was talking about when it gets real. Hey, it's real, you know, and you make a decision in that microsecond of thought, you realize you're either going to be able to survive this and go through this, or you're going to fail, and the cost of failure is indescribable. Who the hell wants to go through life carrying that burden? Take the pain, take the pressure, take the acceptance, if you will, of the circumstances you find yourself in the moment, and now create something magnificent with it. And that's what I love about your story. It's just, you know, you and I have a mutual friend, John Ligero. And,
John Guerrero. Yeah, he's amazing.
Isn't he a beautiful human being?
He's a fantastic human being. I mean, he brings so much joy to my life. He actually hosts my podcast.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had a podcast. Talk about that for a second.
So
oh my God.
It's called Levelheaded Doc.
I'd love to come on your show sometime.
We don't have guests, but sir, you have an open door policy. You're invited anytime. I would be honored to have you on there. It'd be like having a celebrity legend.
It would be an honor to share with a fellow survivor. You know, I have such a respect for you, Andrea, and I want you to know it was John Ligero who gave me your bio, who shared his story and how you transformed his life. And that's why he's going to come on as my next episode. We're going to show how you took your successes and paid it forward, and how I know I can't wait. I can't wait to share it. It's going to be so cool. But anyway, getting back to your story. I'm so enjoying this.
Me too. I'm having a great time. So I think that what I really want to talk about here is, I believe that even more than the physical preparation is the emotional preparation.
Absolutely.
And so through my injury and discovery of my own, I would call it emotional insobriety. I was just kind of a maniac. I jokingly call myself a nightmare, but I actually was. I was kind of, manipulative or dishonest, judgmental, critical, overwhelmingly hysterical at times, especially in romantic relationships. Okay. And I say that with complete humility and vulnerability, because you know what? We're all the same. And I want somebody to hear that and be like, oh God, maybe I am too, you know? And maybe
I received that.
Maybe I can get better. Yeah. Because it doesn't do anything for me to hide it. It's like, you ask me anything about myself, I will tell you the absolute truth about it. Like, I have made some massive mistakes. And I love what you said about like how you came to the government and you said, basically, not only do I want out, I'm here to right my wrongs. Like,
exactly.
You only repair something by writing it, by changing your behavior and being somebody new. And that's why I wrote a book called The You You've Never Met. It helps people recognize where they're emotionally unsober, where they're addicted to a certain chemical dependency of anger or victimhood or sadness or resentment. Fear in your book a lot, which I love because I'm a huge advocate of fearless faith.
Yes.
Bringing that training, the emotional sobriety training, I teach now, bringing that to the world actually been the most fulfilling and gratifying experience of my life, because within 4 to 8 weeks, people have completely different experiences in the world because they're a different person. Your emotional state dictates the quality of your life.
Well, I like how you did a comparative to that being a chemical state, because it is a chemical dependency. It absolutely is. Your biological responses to circumstances such as what you went through or what I've been through and others that watch our show, it is chemical. It is chemistry. And there's a moment of deciding to accept the path that recognition, if you will lead you to. Who would have thought 35 years ago when I was an operational, undercover guy that had walked in that I would be a pastor, and not only that, but a hospice chaplain. And I've been one for 26 years now. And going to get my doctorate, 13 years of study, and I didn't need any of that, or so I thought. But you'll agree with this, doctor, because you know what I'm leading up to. It doesn't matter what we go through in life's experiences if we're going to pay it forward. You also have a requirement of creating the academics to be able to convey the message forward. And that's where study in school and going through seminary and everything that, at least in my path, was a requirement. It wasn't just about how surviving this, that, and the other thing. It became imperative to have an academic structure behind it to support it and to be able to furtherance the message that we're trying to put out there. Do you agree? You're a doctor. You've been through
Absolutely. It. There has to be an obsession.
Yes, that's perfect word for that. It is an obsession.
Yeah.
I love it.
In order to be great at anything or to move a mountain, you got to be obsessed. There's nothing below that. If people aren't saying, "Man, you're obsessed with that," then you're not gonna achieve what it is.
You're not there.
You're not there yet. Yeah. We'll help you get obsessed with whatever endeavor you want. But you're absolutely right. I mean, not only does that give you the ability to share your wisdom with the world, because it gives you the credibility to be trusted. If you're not trusted, your word means nothing.
Absolutely correct. People have got to know that wherever they're hearing information of that magnitude, that there has to be something substantial to corroborate the story. In my case, you've read my book, so you know what I've been through and all that. But the beauty is, all the way back to my childhood years when I first met El Chapo and riding burros along the opium fields out there when I was 15 years old in 1969 with Ramon Arellano Felix of the Arellano Felix Syndicate. He was 7 years old. That's when I met this guy. I was cast out of school for smoking a cigarette and shipped off to a mining camp in Mexico. And look at the transition that did to a young kid's impressionable life at that time. I mean, looking back over the years and looking back over all of it, I think that was a motivational point. My brother being shot in Vietnam, and I remember going into the hospital in Bremerton and on that ward, scared to death that I was going to lose my brother, and seeing all these young men laying there with various combat-related injuries. And I became so angry, doctor, so angry inside. And that's when I immediately went to the community college, filed for a GED program. And 2 weeks after I was 17, week and a half, 2 weeks after I was 17, I was in the Army. Volunteered to go. I wanted to go over there and shoot some son of a bitch that shot my brother. That was in my head. That was in my mind. And, I wanted to be the best of the best. And that's why I went through the training I did to become a paratrooper, to survive Tigerland training and all of the things I did. Yeah. And it's so funny how it conveyed, because when I got out and I went back to the village in 74 to visit my friends down there, that was the moment of my recruitment, to where they said, yeah, bring a car down. We'll cut some compartments in it, pack it full of kilos, and we'll get you going. Hell, I'm 19 years old and I'm making my first run into the United States, and what an adrenaline rush it was when I cleared customs and got that one through, and that was it. My addiction was established. But relating to this conversation, what happened was an overpowering dedication to succeed. That's what I'm trying to build up to in our and that conveyed the next 15 years of my life of a high-level criminal industry. And I've got pictures of me with El Chapo when he was 26 and I was 28. And we were both smuggling marijuana at that time out of the state of Jalisco at a ranch just outside of Guadalajara. And I remember meeting him and this guy named Rafael Cara Quintero. And Rafael was the guy that created Sinsemilla. He's the one that took the marijuana and created it into female and bud form. And also in those years, doctor, they were creating the Emerald Triangle, Northern California, Southern Oregon, where they were starting to grow the high-grade marijuanas. And this became the competition to the drug cartels. So what they did was they imported people into the United States to learn how to grow it that way, put them up there in Northern California. And I did an actual episode on the Emerald Triangle. But the point I'm getting is to this. Discipline at some point starts to shift. It goes to the narrative of what the market demands. The same thing in your type of curative work that you do, where you're working with people that are maybe facing a potential surgery situation, but you have another path, another alternative to give them first to look at. And that's what I love about it. And by the way, I want a copy of your book. I really do.
Oh,
I heard about it. So we got to hook that up, Doc. And I'm going to be down in California sometime in the next year. They're making a motion picture of my life. Two of the producers got a hold of me recently and said it's almost ready to go to finance, to get it financed. And they said I'm going to have to come down, and I'll be down there for 4 to 6 months. Who knows? But I want to come and meet you and your husband. Have a sit down.
We want to come to your opening of your movie. That's fantastic.
You are welcome. Thank you.
I want to be in your movie. Anyways.
Yeah. You never know. I think that's up to the people that do the actors and actors.
So if you're watching this, if you're listening, just know I'm available.
I got you, Doc. I got you. But
I want to be in that film. Wow.
What we want to do, that's faith-based. They're going to create it. They're going to show that I was in the Cardinals and that, but the end is going to show about my absolution to God in serving his kingdom and every single one of you. 5 years ago, I was hit by a contract killer, left for dead. And I remember when I came out of the fog and kind of revived from the kill order, as I was in the hospital, I was in a coma for a day and a half. And when I came out of the coma, the first thing I did was forgive the man that hit me. And I meant it from the bottom of my soul. I absolutely cared for him. And hell to him, I was nothing but a name and an address on a piece of paper. I've been there. I've done that kind of, life. I know what he was going through in that moment. But, the beautiful thing is it was confirmation by example. When God comes into our life and we accept him like that, to that capacity, there is nothing left but love for one another. And I carry that to this day. And October 19th, 1994 at 3:30 in the afternoon, I'd just been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. My wife served me with divorce papers that day. I had a contract put on my life in a federal courtroom of all places. And I'm sitting in a cell waiting to get on Con Air and be flown to whatever hell federal institution they were going to ship me off to. And I remember I just couldn't take any more of it, Doc. And I dropped down to my knees and I just said, God, I can't do this anymore. I can't take another. And a fellow prisoner walked in and kneeled on one side of me and put a hand on my shoulder and he started praying. Within seconds, another man came into the cell, dropped on his knees on the other side of me and started praying. And those bonds broke in that moment. And I have never, ever felt nothing but unspeakable joy every single day of my life since 1994 when that moment occurred. But that's what it takes. What, sister?
There's so many things in that. So intense. So the first thing I want to say is, and I'm safe to say it on the show, is that emotional sobriety training I designed to lead people to God without them knowing it. And here's how. Because when you overcome yourself, you recognize that God has always been there. It's an illusion to think that you have to go find God.
Until it becomes real.
Right. It's like literally, boom, right there. And so when we shed the arrogance and the burdens and it's in the scripture. It's like, cast your burdens onto me. That's not a suggestion. That's a commandment. Like,
yes.
You're not supposed to sit in fear and resentment. That makes you somebody who then could potentially victimize someone else. It puts you in a path of evil, in my opinion. And
that's exactly correct.
Right. So I love that you automatically forgave the person who tried to assassinate you. You came from a place of pure humility and grace and poise. And it was so natural, right?
There was no hesitation. I came out of the coma and he was my first thought. And I forgave him in that instant. And I had compassion for him. Yeah,
compassion. It's like when you can, almost like kneel in front of someone that's hurt you completely and just want great things for them. Like I'm obsessed with the word redemption, Hal. Like redemption is my favorite word. It is a redemption story. And I think that behind every crisis, there always contains a potential for the miraculous.
Yes.
And that's
it is miraculous because you are no longer that which you were before you allowed the godly essence, if you will, or the Spirit of God, or whatever you want to call it, come into your soul and take complete control and complete command. Then all of that anger and all of that guilt and all of the negative feelings, if you will, they
Yeah.
vanish. They're gone in that instant. And
Yeah.
the recognition of something far greater comes into you. And you find that you smile every single day of your life for the rest of your life. Yeah. It's just
I mean,
amazing.
I'm a dork. I have a smile on my face all the time. I'm with you, man. Like, this
Yeah.
is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot in common with that. And I think that, like you said, once you invite God into the driver's seat of your life, so to speak, because honestly, we're not qualified to run our
No.
lives. We're not even close without a lot of training on top of not having faith. Like, we just don't
Yeah.
have what it takes to be leaders or even to lead ourselves. And so when I think about emotional sobriety training, I think about people that are maybe atheist or like don't really believe in anything bigger than themselves. And like, that's such a trap of desperation and
It is.
And despair. And so when I feel like you can get to God in two ways. One is you decide.
Yes.
You say, you know what? I'm going to humble myself like you did that day. You're like, I'm giving you everything, God. Like, I am not qualified to run my life. And that's one way. So you humble yourself. The other way is that you get humbled.
Yes. Yes, that's perfect. That is a beautiful example of that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're always going to have to get to a very, not in a degradation way. Like, I don't mean this in like a negative way, but you have to get to a low place.
Yes.
You have to get to a place that is lower than your ego.
Yes.
Like, you have to, and it could be just away from your ego. And so I always joke with people, I'm like, listen, you can wait to be humbled, or you could just kneel.
Yes.
And emotional sobriety training really helps people get humble, because they don't even recognize where they're having a life that is sponsored by arrogance and hate and lack and unforgiveness and fear. Right?
Yeah, but you know what, Doctor, what comes to play in my mind as you're speaking this right now is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understandings. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. And that's exactly what happened during that time of transitioning, at least is my example. I'm in federal prison. All of a sudden, I end up terminally ill. I'm going to be dead in 3 or 4 months, as I'm told by the medical examiners. They fly me to Springfield, Missouri, to the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners. And I take this volunteer drug. It was called alpha interferon 2B. And they were testing it on prisoners that wanted to sign and accept it. And here I am 30 some odd years later alive. But what happened? When I ended there, I started my seminarial studies, became a certified hospice counselor to help fellow prisoners go through the dying process. And my seminary for 2.5 years was in those death rooms, when I would be sitting there with men as they are dying, and I was cramming and doing my studies. And when I got ordained, it was Johnny Gambino of the Gambino crime family who threw a big feast on the yard, because the prisoners there saw that I wasn't some guy hiding behind a Bible. They saw that the calling was real. And in my book, yeah, they saw it. And this is done by example. And this is what Christ tells us. And I remember talking to John Gotti when John Gotti came in just before he's dying. I'm a certified hospice counselor. I could move around through wards. I had opportunity to talk to Mr. Gotti a few times and send hellos over to Johnny Gambino. And I remember very, very well his denial of God, the agonizing end of his existence, the way that he had manifested it by being a stone cold hardcore made man, if you will, the last godfather of godfathers for the Gambino family, all of these things that he hung on to and clung to. I saw that same exact thing when I went to Culiacan, Sinaloa so many years ago and tried to opt out. My life was built. I had everything I wanted. I didn't want to be a criminal any longer. And I saw how the web of that lifestyle refused to let us go. Well, John Gotti, in his last days, or the days that I had seen him there, he struggled with so many things. I could feel it. I could see it. I could sense it in this man. And all he had to do was hit that moment of recognizing how simple it is to surrender to something greater. But when you think that you are the greatest of all things, there is no surrendering. And you carry that with you to that final breath you take. And it's a lesson learned. It shows the opposite of compassion, the opposite of love for one another, following the example of something that is true, and you know it's true, which is passion and compassion for all living things. 40 years ago, I was a very evil man. They took the power of God himself to transform that in an instant, and not only take that lifestyle that I lived to such an extreme, but to now use that wisdom of what I had survived in those years of being in the cartels, and now being a true man of God, where I walk in a trap house and I see 3 boys sharing the same needle at a kitchen table, and I'm seeing a couch full of young girls that are underage, waiting for their turn to go in some back bedroom to trade their flesh for a $20 fix, and never, ever, ever judge it. And they trust me. They trust this pastor. They allow him in. And I'm there merely for moral support and to hear their story should they want to share it. And if not, that's okay too. But what we do is we take the wisdom of experience and we find where it fits most in society that we find ourselves ingrained in. In my case, my society was the world of people that were addicted to drugs, people that were selling drugs, people that were active, because I had been there and done that. That's where the trust became, because they knew Pastor Bradley could be trusted. He's not going to go tell the police what he sees. He's not going to turn us in. And when I get the occasional rape victim brought over to my house in the middle of the night and the door gets banged and I'm bringing somebody else in and making them a bed on the couch, you know, they're not going to the hospital. They're coming here because if they go to the hospital, they're going to get arrested because they have felony warrants. And for God's sakes, they're going to go dope sick. Well, I don't judge any of that. That's not my place to be with that. My place is in the immediate, you know, and like the VA. They provide all of my Narcan kits. So when I have overdose cases brought to my house, you know, I have everything, every ability, if you will, in that instant to be able to bring that person back to the living. And, you know, sometimes they get mad at me when they come out of it because they go, now I can't get high on fentanyl and heroin for the next 24 hours because thanks to you, Doc, you put that stuff in my body. Hell, you just saved their life. And they have anger issues about it, but that's okay. We're not here to judge them, doctor. We're here to serve them. Yeah. And once you hit that plateau, life becomes very uncomplicated. And in closing my statement, so when I go and guest speak at churches, which I do from time to time, I only have one message, and that is the 2 commandments and the only 2 commandments that Jesus gave us. One is to love God the Father above all things, but the other one, doctor, is to love one another. And this is where the complexity of humanity comes into play. Why do we make it so darn hard to love one another? Why?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Emotional and sobriety, our self-centeredness.
You hit it. You hit it. I love it.
It's the root of all problems. I mean, it truly is, because the second you are we become detectives. We look for evidence of where we should be offended, where we should be sad, where we should be afraid, where that person's going to betray us or has betrayed us or done something wrong. We live in such perpetual evidence-seeking obsession. The wrong.
God, I hope you put that in your book. I hope you just put that in your book. That was dead on, because that's what we do. We are detectives. You're right.
Yeah. We're highly skilled detectives. And so my work is I just teach you how to use that same skill in the other direction. What's the most mature way I can look at this? What's the most humble way that I can approach this? You know, is this really about me?
Clarity and acceptance.
That's it. And, okay. So when I first of all, when I opened your book, I'm like, this guy is so on the same path, track as me. It's unbelievable. So you're talking about acceptance. Acceptance is a radical, very advanced practice in emotional sobriety, because you can imagine people that are struggling with just getting along with their partner. If I were to tell them they need to radically accept that their partner had been unfaithful, or if somebody had died, or that seems impossible when you are, completely drunk on emotion.
You're in the moment.
It seems impossible. And so it's an advanced practice in emotional sobriety. But what you're talking about is what I love. And that's that acceptance. It's right now, make the decision, accept it. Yeah. It's not going to go away by ignoring it. Just accept it. Move.
It's quite the opposite. It amplifies, it manifests, it grows into something even uglier. You're so right, doctor. You're so right.
What you resist persists.
Well, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was the mother who founded Hospice in America, and she gave us the 5 stages of the dying process. And the first one is anger, and the second one is denial, and the third one is bargaining, and the fourth one is depression, and of course the fifth one is acceptance. Well, you can apply that chemistry of feeling and emotion, if you will, to exactly the directives that you've created in your book, in your story. Think of it. Think of those stages that people go through in that moment of their critical low. Yeah. And those stages, they manifest us into something that we can not only become survivors, but we can become messengers of something far greater than ourselves. And that's exactly right. Oh, I can't wait to read your book. I can't wait to read it. Yeah.
The second one's coming out this year too, so we're good. But yeah, I think what you're talking about there is you talk about the stages of death or the stages of grief, but anytime we go through change, there's death.
Yes, absolutely. There is a psychosis to that becomes manifested. And a lot of people have a fear of change, because it's not familiar to them.
My husband and I talk about quantum leaps in our work, and what you just stages of to acceptance, so to speak. If you were to just leap right to acceptance,
yes,
how much time, life, energy, relationships would you get back?
Wow. Never thought of it that way. That's
quantum leap, baby. You don't have to go through every stage. You're an exact example of that.
Yes.
I mean, you've gone through every stage, I'm sure, but you don't have to now because you've got the wisdom to go right to acceptance.
And the academics to portray that wisdom in a place where it's credible and can be trusted. And you're exactly right. I can't thank you enough for this meeting today, if you will. I absolutely feel a connection to your soul, your truths, your gift of passing it forward to other people. Sister, that's what's so critical about having conversations like this that the world gets to hear. Yeah. Because there's somebody today will be impacted by this very relationship that you and I have created today as a result of not being afraid to come out with those things that we feel and think and experience and now share. So listen, as we get ready to wrap up today's show, I want to know if you want to have any specific message that really touches your heart that you want to share with the audience.
I like to remind people that we're all the same. We all make mistakes and we all need help sometimes.
Yes.
And so if you need help, ask for it. If you've made a mistake, don't beat yourself up for it. Just fix it. We're all the same in the mechanism of mistake. We all make mistakes for the exact same reason. Just know that. I write all about it in my book. So you don't get to be the uniquely special person who doesn't deserve forgiveness. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second is you can either be hit by the humble train, right? Or you could just get on the humble train. Like those are the choices. Like, so those are the life hacks, so to speak, that will get you to a different place. And if your emotional state dictates the quality of your life, you want to be in charge of that. So get emotional sobriety, sober up emotionally.
What a great message. Now, Doctor, before we close the show, can you tell us how we can find your book? Where can we purchase the book at?
Sure. It is on Amazon. It's called The You You've Never Met. It's actually on almost all bookstore websites.
Okay.
You've Never Met.
Wow. Powerful. I want an autographed copy from you, though, sister. I got to have that in my library.
I'm going to sign mine.
Yeah. And I get down to California, I'll sign the one you've got.
Awesome.
Well, listen,
Thank
I love
you so
you.
much.
I love you. God bless you. I think you're just amazing. And Doctor, peace to you and your husband and the wonderful work that the two of you are doing. And John Leggero, he loves you with all his heart. He thinks you're just an angel. And I can tell now why he does. So thank you for being on the show.
Bless
Bye,
you.
Abby.
Bye.
You too.
Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.